Cassidy Holay had long ago decided that the universe had a sick sense of humor, and today it was showing off. She was elbow-deep inside the malfunctioning guts of an atmospheric processor on mining station Kepler 442b, sweating under the constant hiss of steam valves and the shrill whine of overworked turbines. The machine stank of ozone, coolant leaks, and old grease, the particular perfume of badly maintained equipment. And every time she shifted, some part of it stabbed her in the ribs. Whoever had designed this cooling system, she decided, must have been operating with the engineering sense of a brain-damaged lemur. She tugged at a bundle of power couplings, cursed, then wiped her forehead with a rag that looked like it had survived several decades of industrial tragedies. The deck plates trembled beneath her. At first, just a faint vibration, the sort of thing you could ignore if you really wanted to. Then the whole station shook violently, rattling toolboxes off shelves and making the processor scream in protest. The walls quivered, as though a god had grabbed the station and decided to give it a good shake just to see what happened. Cassidy froze, tools in hand, and swore again. This was not the kind of rumble that came from a bad coolant pump or even a reactor hiccup. This was the sound of plasma cannons carving the hull like a butcher slicing meat. "Well, that's just fantastic," she muttered, climbing out of the processor. The evacuation klaxons began to wail, high and desperate, which meant the station's AI had finally noticed they were under attack. Brilliant! Absolutely brilliant! Cassidy grabbed her toolkit out of pure instinct. If the station was going to hell, she wasn't leaving without the one thing that had kept her alive through 23 years of disasters. She bolted down the corridor, boots pounding metal grates, aiming for the emergency pods. She had no intention of becoming a smear of carbonized debris scattered across orbit. She made it 37 steps, the corridor ahead filled with shadows, then with shapes. Towering insectoid figures in black-green armor, their limbs moving with unnerving insectile twitchiness. Cathari slavers. Cassidy's stomach turned cold. Up close, they looked like praying mantises that had been forced to hit the gym for years and then armored for war. 4 glossy eyes gleamed, mandibles clicked like grinding gears, and plasma rifles snapped into her direction with chilling precision. The leader stepped forward, mandibles spreading in a noise that sounded like bubble wrap filled with gravel. "Lead Cathari. Human, you will surrender." Cass looked at the toolkit in her hand, then at the rifles, then back at the toolkit. The math was not complicated. She lifted her hands slowly. Well, when you put it like that, 20 minutes later, Cassidy Holay was stuffed into a holding cell that smelled like industrial disinfectant and hopelessness. The walls were bare metal. The floor was bare metal. Even the sleeping platform was bare metal. At least they were consistent. "Welcome to the glamorous world of galactic slavery," she said to herself, dropping onto the platform with a groan. Talking to yourself, she reasoned, still counted as conversation. At least you knew someone in the room had a brain. An hour later, her cellmate arrived, Jorik, a Jirian trader who looked disturbingly like a cross between a bear and a very disappointed accountant. He collapsed onto the opposite platform with the sigh of someone who had been crushed by life one too many times. "They're not selling us for labor. We're bound for Lord Vexthul's entertainment circuit." Cass, "Sounds fancy. What's the catch?" Jorik, "Arena fights. 1 hour. Survive against the champion. You're free. Fail? And, well..." He shrugged with those massive shoulders, leaving the obvious unsaid. Cass, let me guess. The champion's undefeated, terrifying, and very good at making sure nobody survives. Jorik, 237 fights, 237 deaths. Average survival time, 14 minutes, 22 seconds. Cass whistled low. 14 minutes? That's insulting. I've had root canals that lasted longer. The next day, she met Lord Vexthul himself. The Nexari noble arrived like a man who believed the galaxy was his mirror. His skin gleamed with expensive biomodifications. His robes were probably worth more than Cassidy had made in her life, and his smile had the charm of a tax audit. Vexthul, the human. How delightfully primitive. Do you understand what's about to happen to you? Cass, well, judging by the decor and your sparkling personality, I'm guessing it's not a spa day. The aristocrat's laugh sounded like champagne poured over broken glass. Vexthul, 1 hour, little Deathworlder. Survive against Kravoth the Destroyer, and you win freedom. The odds are 3,000 to 1 against you. Cass, please. I've had worse odds on first dates. The betting hall buzzed the next morning. Jorik reported the odds had climbed to 4,000 to 1, and that Vexthul had personally bet 50,000 credits on her dying within the first 10 minutes. Cassidy stretched, grinning. Cass, rude. I could last 12 minutes if I really tried, but she wasn't planning to just try. She'd spent the night listening to the arena itself, the hum of power conduits, the throb of atmospheric processors, the faint cyclical tremors of gravity plates. Machines always whispered their secrets if you knew how to listen, and Cassidy had been listening her whole life. The arena was a theater of intimidation. Corridors widened into grand tunnels. Lighting shifted from sterile white to theatrical gold. Holographic screens replayed past matches in gruesome detail. Dismembered fighters, roaring crowds, triumphant Kravoth standing amidst sand stained crimson. Kravoth himself was an abomination of flesh and steel, 3 meters tall, armored with military-grade plating, 4 arms enhanced with servo motors, compound eyes glowing with targeting software, worth more than her entire homeworld. His entrance was accompanied by pyrotechnics and sound effects that shook the walls. Announcer 2H. 137 victories. The unstoppable, the undefeated, Kravoth the Destroyer. Cass raised an eyebrow. Cass, Kravoth the Destroyer. Someone's got a flair for drama. Next up, Morgar, the mildly upset. The fight began with Kravoth charging like a runaway starship. Cass dove aside, rolled behind a weapon rack, and watched him plow into the arena wall with an impact that shook the ground. Cass, that's gonna leave a mark. You might want to consider decaf, big guy. She kept moving, studying him. His attacks followed routines, same angles, predictable timing, no creativity. His cooling vents ran hot, processor whine climbing with each exertion. When she slid between his legs and drove a stolen energy pike into one of those vents, sparks erupted in a shower of blue fire. One of his arms locked uselessly at his side. The crowd gasped. This wasn't supposed to happen. Kravoth, impossible. The human is supposed to die. Yeah, well, I've never been great at following directions. By the 14-minute mark, she'd turned the arena itself into her ally. Force field generators hummed at precise intervals. Gravity plates cycled with predictable rhythms. Cassidy improvised a frequency modulator from scrap weapon parts and lured Kravoth into slamming head-first into an energy wall. The crowd screamed, as the mighty champion crashed to the ground, servos sparking. Kravoth's systems shifted to emergency protocols. Weapon ports opened, spraying energy fire that reduced obstacles to glass and smoke. Cassidy sprinted through the chaos, laughing like a lunatic. Cass, want to know the difference between humans and machines? Humans adapt. With one final surge, she overloaded the arena's systems. Gravity warped. Force fields blinked erratically. Atmospheric pumps roared like hurricanes. Kravoth's sensors screamed errors. His limbs flailed in confused loops. Cassidy leapt onto his back, shoved her improvised device into his processor core, and the destroyer collapsed like a felled tree. The clock showed 42 minutes remaining. Cassidy dusted herself off, looked at the stunned crowd, and waved. Cass, so, anyone else want a turn? What followed was not just survival, but revolution. She hacked into the arena's central control, broadcasting records of slavery, bribes, and rigged fights to 47,000 systems. Noble patrons turned pale, officials panicked, and Cassidy Holay, a grease-stained mechanic from a forgotten mining station, walked out of the arena carrying the data crystal that would burn an empire to the ground. Her last words before disappearing into the galaxy echoed across every screen. Cass, the next time someone calls humans primitive, remind them we took down your empire with nothing but spare parts and spite. And so began the age when Deathworlders stopped being underestimated.